Ozonics Coolbits podcast back again. I don't know why I just clapped, but I clapped. Today we are talking about ozonics, scent control, the importance of both of them, and everything in between.
Yep. Gonna hit everything.
We are going to go through a plethora. The importance of scent control, the importance of ozonics. We're going to talk about marrying those two things, how they've merged over the last couple, like decade and a half.
Yeah.
We're going to go through the history of ozonics. We're going to go through just a bunch of different stories. We're going to talk about, where you might be as a hunter within that scent control journey.
Yep.
Where you are, why you do what you do. If you're using ozonics, we're going to talk about the fundamentals of ozonics. We're going to talk about how it works. We're going to talk about
Evolution.
the founder. We're going to talk about the founder, Scott Elrod, and his story, and how scent control and how ozonics has really changed and evolved and revolutionized kind of this whole scent control category.
Yeah.
And some of the hurdles and things and the highs and lows that he's had to go through over the years with that.
Yep.
And then we're going to talk about a lot of the different gear with ozonics. The evolution of the ozonics units over the years and what that's looked like.
Yep.
Looks like kind of the timeline. We're going to talk about bags and packs and accessories, and we're going to just kind of go through a whole gamut of stuff.
Yes. Yep. It's gonna be good.
It's going to be a lot. You better strap in.
Yep.
So I think the way we're going to do this one is it's going to be a little bit of a kind of like a rapid fire.
Yeah.
Kind of a Q&A.
Bang, bang.
You're going to be asking the questions, and I'm going to be trying to give you some answers.
Yep. Exactly.
So shoot them at me.
All right. Well, I think the first thing we should kind of talk about is, why is scent control so important? What are some things that, what are some things that should put scent control at the top of your list when it comes to thinking about hunting and thinking about the gear you got, how you do things? Just kind of go through why it's so important.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say there is you're talking about really about like the importance of scent control.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think one of the interesting things is that people have been doing scent control long before ozonics kind of hit the scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think about when my grandpa taught me how to hunt, right? We used to use garbage bags and put pine boughs in bags and put our gear on the inside of it. He would always leave a lot of his gear outside, the night before or things like that. As a young person, I did all those same types of things. You know what I mean? And I think when you start to talk about scent control as a whole, the reason that it is so important is when it really comes down to it, bow hunting, specifically scent control, becomes a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Really hunting in general, when you're starting to get closer to animals.
Yep.
Hunting is really a sport of close. Bow hunting is a sport of close. It's not a 400 and it's over type deal, right?
Yep.
It's a under 50, under 40, under 20. And when you start closing that gap and getting really a lot closer to animals, the game really changes. It's a different set of rules.
Yep.
Do you follow me?
Yep.
And, the analogy that I always like to say is I feel like if you think about scent control in your whole hunting, the umbrella of everything hunting is, it's almost like scent control is the ball to every game.
Yeah.
Okay? Meaning, think about hunting like golfing. You can have golf shoes, you can have a golf cart, you can have golf clubs, you can know the golf course you're going to go golfing at, you can have your golfing buddies.
Yep.
But you get up to the first tee, and if you don't have a ball, you're not really golfing.
Can't do much.
And I feel like that's scent control. I think you can ask anybody, and when they really start to get serious about hunting, what they start to figure out, and their experience teaches them pretty quickly, is that animals circle on the downwind side.
Exactly.
And scent control becomes such a key and pivotal part of how that hunting experience and the game that you're playing, how it plays out.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
And so, like you said, you'll hear me say a lot that I think that all animals have different senses. Their eyes, their ears, their nose,
Yep.
their sixth sense, however you want to call it, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think from my experience, sometimes their eyes will play tricks. their ears will fool them,
Yep.
but their nose doesn't lie.
Yeah.
If they don't feel comfortable with what they see and they don't like what they hear, they're going to circle because they know they can trust their nose.
Yeah.
And that's where scent control over the years, since before you and I were around, since before our dads were around and our grandpas were around, scent control has become such a pivotal part of what you do.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean? And again, like you said, it's a sport of close. Animals circle on the downwind side. That's really what it comes down to.
Yep. All right. So you've obviously been hunting a long time. You've kind of seen both sides of the story.
Yep.
Hunting with Ozonics, without Ozonics. Can you share some experiences that you might have from when you weren't hunting with Ozonics before all that kind of came into your life?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the thing that I always talk about when it comes to scent control, especially is, and I think the realization that I had years and years ago, and this is way before I was ever even introduced to Ozonics, was why I was doing what I was doing. And, you know, it was kind of a harsh reality. You know, it's funny because I always tell the story. This is way before cell cams. This is back when you used to have to go out and like actually check your cameras.
Yeah.
I used to walk from one to the next before I would get to my stand. And I had a buck that I was really, really watching. And I checked the cameras on the way in, and I got up in the stand that I was going to hunt that afternoon, and I'm looking at the card. And sure enough, that buck was on camera in the morning, walking right by. And I'm just like, gosh dang, here we go, baby. And so I get done hunting that day. I go home, and I'm looking at the wind, and the wind's completely wrong for the next morning, right? And it was funny because I was talking to my wife, Tatum now, she was just my girlfriend at the time, and I was just losing it because I'm like, gosh darn, I'm all hangry about it. You know, she's like, well, what's wrong? I'm like, I got that buck on camera. I just can't go in there. And she's like, well, why not? I'm like, well, you know, the wind's just wrong. You know, like if I go in there, I'm going to bump that deer. And she's like, yeah, but you know, didn't you go buy the new latest and greatest, whatever type of thing? You know what I mean? Because I was full into the game of scent control by that point, right? I was doing all of it. Yeah. And I was like, well, yeah. And she's like, well, then go hunt the stand. I'm like, babe, I can't. And she's like, well, why not? I'm like, well, if I go in there, that deer's he's going to win me. I can't bust him out of there. And it's funny because within that conversation, she kind of finally just kind of stopped and kind of was laughing at me. And she looks at me and she's like, Cole, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Yep. And I think in that moment, what I realized is that my experience had taught me that the scent control that I was doing wasn't really working.
Yeah, exactly.
And in that moment, I really asked myself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I really couldn't come up with a good answer why I was doing it. The only thing I come up with is I felt like scent control in my mind, I think this is the way it is for a lot of people, it's like these building blocks that you're trying to stack up to get over this hurdle of, you know, theoretical success. Yeah. Do you follow me? And if you feel like if you stack enough of these up, you can get over that hurdle. And what it boiled down to is when I got deer on the downwind side, they winded me. Right. It didn't matter if I was giving an inch or a mile, I was still giving. Yeah. Close only counts and horseshoes and hand grenades. Right. Okay. And when I had that conversation, I realized I was just doing it for, I don't even know why. I just stopped. Yeah. I stopped doing all of it. Yep. I just put on my normal deodorant. I didn't wash my clothes because if I got deer on a downwind side, whether I was doing all of it or none of it, I still got winded. Yeah. And so I think that was what my experience has been. I think that's what a lot of people feel. Yeah. You know, we always talk about, when we talk about scent control, and as you're listening to this, think about why you do what you do. Right. Why do you do it? Is it working? What happens when you get deer on the downwind side? Mm-hmm. You know, you'll hear and you'll see a lot of stuff on our website, ozonicshunting.com, about, shameless plug there, if you didn't know. You'll hear us talk a lot about passive and active scent control, right? Yep. And meaning what I was describing earlier, just a minute ago about, you know, pre-Ozonics, I was using sprays, I was using cover scents, I was using suits, I was using all this stuff. And did it work? You know, now looking back on it, I don't really know. Felt like it worked in the time. Yeah, you know what I mean? But my experience taught me when I got them on the downwind side, it really wasn't. Yeah. But theoretically, the effectiveness of it falls off very quickly. Starts way up here, and then it just goes down, down, right? And the alternative to passive scent control is active scent control.
Yep.
You follow me?
Yep.
Meaning that you're actively and continually helping eliminate your odor. That's what Ozonics does. The story I always tell about passive and active scent control that I think really sheds a lot of light on this, and it really also ties together why you do what you do is I always tell the story about the scent control that I did pre-Ozonics. And I think that as you listen to this, you can start to count on both hands and your fingers and toes how many of these things apply to you.
Yeah.
Right? And I think even you or your uncle, Zip, or buddies, right? I used to have a special washer and dryer that I would only use for my hunting clothes.
Mm-hmm.
I had special towels that got washed in that special washer and dryer. They were only for before I was going to go hunting. I had special soaps, special dryer sheets, right? I had special shampoo, special conditioner, special body wash, a special loofah. You know, this is all just before I just, getting out of the shower.
Yeah.
Then I had special clothes that I would wear. This was only clothes just for around the house. Then I had special totes or bags. I'm at 11 already, that all my gear would stay in.
Yeah.
I had special seat covers that I used to have in my car at the time that were supposed to help, not, send it up. I would spray down with special spray before I got in the car, you know what I mean? Or I would spray it on my boots or my shoes. God knows you couldn't stop at a gas station.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was off limits.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You better be ready to go.
Yeah.
I had special chewing gum that smelled like apples or something. It was supposed to help with my breath. Then I would finally get out to where I was going to go hunting. Then I had my special clothes that I would put on for the way in. I had special spray I would spray down with again.
Yep.
I haven't even walked away from the vehicle yet.
Right.
Then I would finally get out there, and then I would put on my special hunting clothes that had all this special material on the inside, right? And then I would spray down again.
Right.
I mean, I've lost count at how many things I'm at right now. And I would get up in the stand. I know this sounds terrible, but I would get up there and I would let out a fart. And in that moment, I wish I had a fart noise. In that moment of that fart, you're right back at square one.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter if you give an inch or a mile, you're still giving.
Yeah.
I've had an opportunity years ago to use thermal vision cameras. Thermal vision has got really popular in predator hunting. You want to see something crazy.
Yeah.
Go stand out in a field with a buddy that's got a thermal camera and watch just the human exhaust pipe that we are when we're breathing.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yep.
And so for me, what I realized, like I said earlier, is all that stuff is passive scent control. I can't be the only guy that bought a scent lock suit or a carbon suit and got out there and was like, all right, man, let's see if this thing works.
Yeah, exactly.
I farted and I could still smell it.
Yeah.
Like, well, how can that be?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I would challenge you to ask yourself, why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
And that was me. I did all of it before. And all of it was really just passive scent control.
Yeah.
The alternative is to actively and continually help eliminate your odor.
Yeah.
And that's where Ozonics really swooped in and kind of saved the day.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. It seems to me like, well, actually I know this is true, but it's interesting to, be using Ozonics now, seeing how it works, and realizing that really if you look at scent control as a whole, the line in the sand is what splits passive and active scent control.
Yes.
And once you get across that line, it just opens up a whole new plethora of things that you can do when you're hunting.
Yeah. When I hear what you said right there, what comes to mind for me, and you'll hear me say this, I'll probably say this a dozen times as we go through this. What happens when you get deer on the downwind side?
Yeah, exactly.
You want to talk about scent control? Let's talk about it all day long. We get guys in the booth at the shows. We get guys on the phone. I talk to people anywhere. And they, some guys kind of get right up on you and they want to posture up. They want to have this big, long conversation and try to pin you down. Does Ozonics work? Like, let's talk about, like, what do you do for your scent control regimen? I'm like, dude, I'll talk about that all day long. I just ask one question. What happens when you get deer on the downwind side?
Yeah, exactly.
There's the line in the sand.
Yeah.
There's the line right there,
Yeah.
baby.
Yep.
What happens? What happens? It's funny because guys, they're like, well, what do you mean? what happens when you get deer on the downwind side?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I get winded. Okay, how often do you get winded? I mean, all the time. What percentage? Geez, I don't know, man, like 100% of the time?
Yeah.
And some guys already know what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah,
And they want to try to
exactly.
skirt around. I'm like, no, man, listen, I'm not trying to like have a big argument here. Just answer my question. Like,
Yeah.
what happens when you get deer on the downwind side?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, what happens?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, man, I get winded. Yeah, exactly, man. I know you do. Listen to what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying that when you get deer on the downwind side, you get winded. Your experience has taught you that what you're doing right now isn't really working.
Yeah.
You just told me that.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you that.
Yeah.
You
You're
get
answering
deer
it for yourself.
Yes, man. Like, you get winded.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I don't get winded, but when you get winded 10 out of 10 times over here, I'm getting away with it 8 out of 10 times
Yeah.
on this side.
Exactly.
Not every time,
Yeah.
but the majority of the time where you get winded, I don't.
Yeah.
And that's because we're on the opposite side of the fence when it comes to scent control.
Yeah.
You're over here doing all this passive way. I'm here doing this active way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, that's the line in the sand.
Yeah.
What happens when you get deer on the downwind side?
Yeah. Exactly. All right. So I want you to explain a little bit and talk about how ozone actively destroys your scent.
Yep. So, one thing I like to go through is talking about the fundamentals of what ozone does and doesn't do. Because I think, even what I just said there, does and doesn't do, right? Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions with ozone. I think a lot of people naturally gravitate toward using ozone in your clothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we had a room full of people right now, and you said, how many guys are using ozone? Everybody's going to raise their hand.
Yeah.
I mean, would you agree with that? I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people
Yeah.
will. The majority, 75%, are going to raise their hand and say, yeah, man, yep. How many of you guys are using it in the field? A lot of people are going to put their
Drop it
hands
down,
down.
yeah.
Yep, it's going to fall. It's going to be way lower. And so, again, a lot of people are using it on your clothing, which is fine. You know what I mean? Ozonics has ways to do that too. Understanding that's a passive form of scent control. The effectiveness falls off because we're continually emitting more odor. The minute you pull it out of that tote, closet, locker, dry wash bag, it's gathering odor again.
Yep.
But so let's go through it. Ozone is O3.
Yep.
It's 3 molecules of oxygen. There's really 2 ways that ozone is created. There's one way via UV light. That's what the ozone in the atmosphere is. It takes 185 nanometers of UV light. So a certain amount of UV light fractures O2 and creates O3.
Yeah.
O2 is oxygen, O3 is ozone. That's the ozone in the atmosphere. The other way that ozone is created is via what they call the corona discharge method,
Yep.
which really is a lightning strike.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you've ever sat in math class, see what I know. If you've ever sat in a science class when you were a kid, or just ever been to like one of those like kind of gadgety type of stores, they have those glass globes, and there's like a little rod in the middle, and and then you could see it's like a light, it's like lightning.
Yeah.
And you could put your finger on it, and all the electricity goes right to that one
Right,
spot.
right.
You put all your fingers on. When you look at that, you see a purple glow on each side within that current, right?
Yep.
If you've ever been driving down the highway and you see a lightning strike, in that moment, it like flashes, you can see kind of a purple glow.
Right.
That is ozone in that moment. That is electricity fracturing oxygen and creating O3.
Right.
Okay. That's the corona discharge method. What we're doing inside these units is there's a coil up right on the inside of the front of the unit. And it's like a lot of little mini lightning strikes.
Yeah.
We're passing electricity / current over that coil, and it fractures the O2 and creates O3
Right.
when that fan pushes the air through. That's really what it's doing.
Yeah.
So the thing that I always talk about, what you need to remember, is that ozone is a very unstable molecule from a molecular level. It doesn't want to be ozone. We are trying to manipulate that instability. Ozone, when it is exhausted out of, or whenever it's created, it doesn't want to be ozone.
Yeah.
It wants to stabilize as quickly as it can, okay? We are trying to manipulate that instability. That is the gist of it. It's very unstable.
Yep.
It doesn't want to be ozone. It wants to be oxygen. It wants to come in contact with something and stabilize. When it comes in contact, it stabilizes, okay?
Right.
It's like it gets to relax. When it stabilizes, in that moment, from a molecular level, it's oxidizing. When that oxidation happens, it's changing the molecular structure of whatever it's coming in contact with.
Right.
Do you follow me? We are trying to create a situation where that ozone comes in contact with your odor. And when it does, that ozone stabilizes, it then oxidizes, it's changing the molecular structure of your odor.
Yeah.
That's the scientific way of explaining it.
Right.
The redneck way of explaining it, I think a lot of people, when they hear that part, they're like, I don't know what you just said. Oxidation, stabilization, rationalization, a lot of zation words. You lost me, right? Like, just kind of glossed. You're like looking at me like, I don't know what you just said. Nod my head and say, sounds good. That's like me, with me and my wife 90% of the time. No, but I don't say sounds good all the time. So think about your odor as a password. And the password is the word human. We could put that up right here. Human, human.
Yep.
When you go hunting, deer know the password. The animal that you're hunting knows the password. Every animal has olfactory sensors in their nose that tell their brain a message. A lot more olfactory sensors than we do.
Yeah.
When they smell human, that password, it means danger. Run. Get out of there, right?
Yep.
Flight. It's a fight or flight. They're going to flight,
Yeah,
right? They're going to get out of there.
Yep.
When ozone comes in contact with that human password, it's changing the password. It takes off the H and it takes off the N. Now it's not the word human anymore. It's the word UMA. When they spell UMA, it doesn't mean human. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't, they can't, it's a different password.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yep.
Think about your odor like 5 fingers on my hand. What am I holding up? 5.
5. Well,
ozone comes in contact. Now it's this. Fingers are still there, but this isn't how you perceive 5. You perceive this as 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you follow me?
Yep.
And so it's changing it.
Yep.
The other analogy that I always say is think about your odor like a beach ball. If I had a beach ball at my house, my wife and I have got 5 kids. If I blew that beach ball up with air and I threw it to one of the kids, I say, hey, what is this? Jet's going to be like, it's a beach ball. And he's going to kick it off the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
If I take a pin is the ozone, and I pop that beach ball, and all the air, the molecular structure, comes pouring out of that beach ball. You follow me?
Yep.
And it just becomes a shriveled up thing. And I throw that to Jet and I say, Jet, what is this? He's going to look at me like, well, I don't know. He's just going to drop it on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, it's still a beach ball, but it's not a beach ball to him.
Mm-hmm.
He perceives this beach ball as this big thing. And that's really what it comes down to is ozone is oxidizing and it's stabilizing, and now we're oxidizing and it's changing the molecular structure of whatever it comes in contact with.
Yeah.
So like I said, what we're trying to do is create a situation where that ozone is exhausted and we get that ozone in your downwind side.
Yep.
We also know that ozone is heavier than air. So it's naturally going to want to fall. You follow me?
Right.
We talk about what it does and doesn't do. The other thing I would say is there's a lot of misconceptions. You hear a lot of people say on the side of, I use it on my clothing, that say, we hear it all the time, well, it's all ozone. And you're not wrong. It is O3.
Yeah.
It's not like there's like a more powerful O3 molecule. It's ozone. If it's ozone, it's ozone.
Yep.
But the reality is that what do we know? Ozone has to come in contact with something. It's all about that surface area exposure, even from a molecular level with your odor. You follow me?
Yeah.
But the reason I say that is think about your clothing. We hear so many people that stack or pile up their gear in some sort of tote or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And they pump ozone into that container. But again, ozone's going to only treat that outer layer. It's all about surface area exposure. So imagine if I had ozone right here and it comes in contact and I had it exhausting on my sweatshirt. This ozone molecule doesn't know what the previous one did or is going to be doing next. Yeah. It comes in contact, it oxidizes. The next one comes to the same spot, it oxidizes again, and it just keeps hitting and hitting and hitting.
Exactly.
You follow me?
Yep.
It's not going to permeate that clothing. It's going to oxidize. The next one's going to go, hey, cool, boop, oxidize.
Yeah.
Next one, boop, oxidize.
Right.
It's not going to permeate that.
Yep.
So when you try to stack your gear, pile it all up inside of a tote, you're only treating that outer layer. Even with the dry wash bag that Ozonics has, we talk about you need to treat not only the outside, but also the inside of the clothing. Yep. If you're only treating one side, you're only doing half the job.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people think like, oh, perception's reality. Not exactly when it comes to ozone. You know what I mean? There are certain things it doesn't do. You need to treat both sides. You need to try to create, just like the dry wash bag does, it creates circulation through that space. Circulation helps create that surface area exposure that we're lking for. Right. I always tell a story. This is from Scott from way back. And I'm going to kind of steal your questions here.
Yeah.
But when he first invented this, and I'll kind of jump ahead, then I'll go back because it kind of pertains to what we're talking about here, is he used to go to consumer shows and people thought this was just absolute snake oil, right? They're like, really? You can smell ozone, but a deer's not going to know it's me. Like,
Right.
I can't see it. Like, thanks, man. Like, we're going to keep walking. And he was having a heck of a time. So he told me a story once that he would go to like a grocery store and he would get onions and he would get a cutting board and he would cut the onions up. And he would have a guy standing here talking just like this, and he would be trying to explain what ozone does and how it works. And, and he'd say, all right, man, here, let's do it this way. I know you don't believe me. I'm going to show you something, and it'll make the light bulb go on. And then if it does, I want you to really give me a fair shake on this thing. Like, really, really let me pitch you on this. The guy's like, okay, fine. So he'd cut up the onion, and he'd have a blindfold there, and he'd say, all right, man, I cut this onion, I'm going to put it underneath your nose. I'm going to tell me if you can smell it. Well, guy could smell it just like this, right? Guy's eyes are watering like, geez, man. Okay, good. He's like, now I'm going to exhaust this ozone on this onion, this chopped up onion, and I'm going to blindfold you, and I'm going to put that onion underneath your nose, and you tell me when it's underneath your nose. And he would put that onion multiple times, and a guy couldn't smell it.
Yeah.
But then he'd take the blindfold off, and then he'd take it and he'd stir up the onion. All of a sudden, boom, you could smell it again.
Yep.
Well, why is that? You've created new surface area exposure.
Right.
If you took that bowl of onions and you put your overalls in the bottom of something, put that bowl of onions, put your jacket over top of it, run Ozonics, run the ozone in there as long as you want, you're going to open up, you're still going to smell onions.
Yeah.
You follow?
Yep.
It's all about surface area exposure.
Yep.
So you just have to make sure, like you said, there's certain things it does and doesn't do. And when it comes in contact, man, it is powerful. It's 150 times more powerful than bleach.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yep.
We talk a lot about that as well. You have to use ozone the right way. If you pump ozone indiscriminately on your gear for too long, it will rip it up.
Oh, yeah.
Elastics, rubbers, it can be super hard on that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's why with our Ozonics units, there's actually a dry wash cycle, which what that means is it's turning the coil on and off.
Yep.
So it's the right amount of ozone for the right amount of time.
Right.
So it pumps ozone inside the dry wash bag or the locker, then it turns the coil off and it just pumps air.
Yep.
Think about it like a washing machine. You put the laundry detergent in there, it fills the container with water and it shakes it up and it stirs it up. When that water gets dirty, it drains it, puts fresh water in,
Yep,
shakes it up again, right?
Yep.
Drains it. It's cleaning it, right?
Yeah.
But you can't just do it the whole time.
Yeah.
And so it's ozone, then it's air, then it's ozone. It's the right amount of ozone for the right amount of time. So again, that's what you really need to think about when it comes to using ozone. And again, we just hear so much like, well, it's all ozone, and it's like, well, and we talked about earlier how to set it up, like based on the fundamentals, how it works. Mm-hmm. Again, we know it's very unstable. We know it doesn't discriminate. It's going to oxidize on whatever it comes in contact with. You see so many people, even now, on Instagram or photos that they send in, they've just got their Ozonics just pointed straight above their head.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's not usually right. A lot of times, what you need to focus on in a tree stand is we're not trying to treat you. We're trying to treat the odor coming off of you.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, if what a lot of people do is I talk about hunting the right way. The right stand on the right day on the right wind, you hunt the wind in your face. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're hunting the wind in your face, the downwind side's behind you. If you've got it pointed just facing this way out in front of you, that ozone comes out, it's hitting your hat, it's hitting your shirt, it's hitting the bark on the tree, and your odor is getting in front of that ozone.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yep.
Again, we know it's heavier than the air. We're not treating you, we're trying to treat the odor coming off of you. So we want to set that up so when that ozone comes out, it creates this curtain or waterfall that all your odor has to go through.
Yeah.
Trying to create a situation that we can get that ozone in your downwind side and get it to come in contact with your odor as quickly as it can.
Right.
You follow?
Yep.
So there's a lot of things like that when it comes to how it works. If you really start to understand this part of it, the fundamentals of how it works, it can make a heck of a difference on, and you'll hear a lot of people that go, dang man, like, well, I've been using it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. Like, and it's not a coincidence that you open up that tote and you go, man, your brain, the placebo effect says, man, I smell it, must be working. Well, or it's just pooling all on the top of the bag,
Right,
and
yeah.
nothing's happening underneath there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like, hey man, next time you do that, like pull out your bibs and take a good whiff.
Yeah.
They still smell, man.
Yeah,
If you can smell it, what do you think a deer's smelling?
right.
You know, so and again, using it in the field, just make sure you're setting it up based on those fundamentals.
Exactly.
Sorry, that was a 10-minute answer.
No worries. All right, tell me Scott's story and how he came up with all this.
So the founder of Ozonics is a guy named Scott Elrod. Scott's actually from Texas. You know, it's kind of cool because this whole idea actually came about from the fact that he is a dentist and is an avid hunter himself too. And so he does all these different procedures in his dental practice, and he was doing this procedure where they were cauterizing skin. Okay, and he had a company in there that installed this ozone system and was exhausting ozone when they were cauterizing skin. Obviously, a burning flesh smell can be really not very good. And so they were using ozone to help eliminate the odor. And in that moment, you know, the light bulb kind of went on. He's like, holy cow, I wonder if you could use this for hunting.
In the field.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And obviously being from Texas, you know, a lot of avid outdoorsmen in Texas. And, you know, one of the things that a lot of guys hunt there is pigs.
Yep.
You know, you hear a lot of people say from Texas, if you can get away with it, you can get it past a pig's nose, you know,
Right.
you're really doing something. And a couple of buddies got together, and Scott, you know, came up with this machine that was literally, you know, an ozone coil connected to like a car battery. Went out in the ground blind, put a pile of corn kind of all around the blind, and set up this ozone machine and just said, okay, let's see what this thing does. And they had pigs coming all around this blind, and just kind of had that, holy cow, we're really onto something here.
That aha moment.
Yeah. And really onto something. And so that's kind of where it all started. And it's kind of crazy because, like I said, Scott still has his dental practice to this day.
Yep.
You know, I talk a lot about that. And I think this is something a lot of people don't know. You know, I think people think that Ozonics is this huge, you know, 300, 400 employee type thing, but it's really just a handful of us, you know. Ozonics isn't owned by this big conglomerate, you know, like venture capitalist group that's got this huge umbrella of all these companies.
Yeah.
It's just us, you know. And like I said, I know Scott takes a lot of pride in the fact that he owns it and has been building this brand and this company for quite a long time. Like you said, thought of it in 2004, applied for the patents, and then really came to market in about 2007. And it's kind of a crazy story, even during that process, you know, of applying for the patents. You know, it's long story short, he ended up in Washington, D.C. With the head of White House security, the head of the FBI, head of the CIA, just different, you know, government organizations that were saying, okay, explain to us how this Ozonics works. You know, and they literally brought in a diffused bomb, put it in a box with all these holes in it, had his Ozonics set up, and brought in a bomb dog trying to find the bomb, and, you know, having a handler cue the dog to try to find the bomb, couldn't find the bomb. Brought in, you know, some drugs, put the Ozonics on the top of it, brought in drug dogs, couldn't find the drugs. And actually, the U.S. government wouldn't give Scott the patents for this, you know, using ozone in the field for just about 3 years because they said it was going to be a national security threat. So it's pretty incredible to think kind of what he had to go through even to be able to bring it to market.
Exactly.
You know, and I think that's actually one of the crazy things too. I think, you know, now in 2024, it's crazy how we've seen this whole ozone part of the, you know, scent control sector really grow and change. You hear Scott talk about back in 2007, just like I talked about earlier with the onion, cutting off the onion, people just didn't think it worked. They didn't believe it one bit. They thought it was just smoke and mirrors. There's no way that it can do that this box can create this, da-da-da-da. And back then it was a bigger unit, you know what I mean? And it's funny because as time went on, guys really started to see it work. And I started Ozonics in 2016. Even in 2016, there was still, the majority of the people are like, man, I just don't, I don't know anybody that uses it. I really don't understand how it works. We were still having to really explain to people and try to get people to buy in.
You're right.
And that was about 10 years after it first started. But now you look at us in 2024, now like you've been here for a year. That's not what we hear.
No.
Guys walk up at the shows. We get people that call and they say either they're using it or they got a buddy that swears by
Yeah.
it. If I had a nickel for every guy that walked up and said, I got a buddy that swears by it, it's crazy. Everybody knows somebody that swears by it. And the days of guys having no idea what it was all about and not knowing about that, those are gone. You know, it's definitely become an established way of doing things and an effective way
without a
of
doubt.
eliminating your odor and an effective way of doing scent control in a way that you really can't do it with anything else.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I know you've told this story before, but can you go through just like your first experience with Ozonics?
yeah, that's kind of a crazy thing. Like I said, I've been at Ozonics since 2016. I met Scott back a handful of years before that. I actually met him. He was a client on an elk hunt. I was his guide of all things.
Crazy.
And it was just kind of funny because, like I said, at that time, Scott, now knowing him, you know, and being a part of what's going on, back then he was still really plowing the field
Yeah.
when nobody thought it was working. You know, he was really still having to really try to not only just get the consumers to buy in, but really the hunting industry to buy in.
Right.
Right. At that time, the government is telling him over here that this works too well and too good. They didn't want to let him bring to market while the whole hunting industry is saying it doesn't work at all.
Right.
It's complete tomfoolery. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now you look at where we're at in 2024, where every scent control company has got something ozone.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
I mean, oh, isn't that a coincidence?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? All these guys that said it wasn't working, now they're all on the bandwagon. Like, ironic.
Yeah.
But so when I met Scott, he came on this elk hunt. And it's kind of funny. I always joked about when I guided, there was really two rules. Don't guide the guide. Like, he came out a guided hunt, right? So don't tell me what to do, and don't walk like an elephant. And Scott, right off the bat, was pretty adamant that he wanted to kind of do things differently. You know, when you're elk hunting, it's very much a cat and mouse game.
Right.
You're calling. Those elk are coming in. They try to circle. You try to call and move to put yourself in a position to be able to get a shot. When they try to circle down, when you get a broadside shot, and the wind is the biggest thing. And he right off the bat was adamant. He's like, listen, I want to just kind of go right at him. I don't want to worry about the wind. I'm like, man, dude, like, you're kind of breaking rule number one. Like, it doesn't work like that. And it was just kind of crazy because over the course of the next 5-6 days, he really flipped my world inside out.
Right.
And I saw it work in ways and go at elk in ways that I had never, done before.
Yeah.
And, that was really kind of when the light bulb went on for me. And then the wheels really started to turn because I thought, man, what else could I do?
Right.
And, for me as a hunting guide, it was always about opportunity. Obviously we were trying to make sure guys had an opportunity. Obviously the client's whole thing was success, but my job was to get you an opportunity.
Yeah.
What you did with that opportunity, that's up to you.
Yeah, exactly.
But, for me, and Ozonics really presented a way to help clients get more opportunity, whether that was on elk or black bear or mule deer, whatever it was. They all circle on the downwind side. Predators, coyotes, bobcats, fox, they all circle on the downwind side.
Yeah.
And so that's really what it meant for me. And like you said, getting to know Scott, not even really knowing him as a business guy at that point, just as a guy coming on elk hunting, I could just see his passion and how he had that sweet tooth for elk hunting.
Yeah.
And trying to incorporate Ozonics when at that time, especially at that time, it was just really it was becoming an accepted whitetail method
Right.
piece of gear in the Western states. People are like, they really kind of balked at him. And I did the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, listen, man, like elk got bigger eyes, bigger ears, bigger nose. Like it works on whitetail, ain't going to work on elk.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it did, and it does,
Yeah.
and so, but yeah, like you said, it's pretty crazy. A lot of people just don't realize, kind of what he's gone through over the years.
Yeah.
Not only just the skepticism from consumers not understanding it, but then the hunting industry as a whole was sitting here really creating this narrative that, it didn't work. It was all tomfoolery. It was all snake oil. Like, don't believe this, don't believe that company. Like, and they really tried to push him down.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's one of the things that I love most about Ozonics now being here and working at Ozonics is and I think we hear this, and you can attest this, I think we hear this so much from customers, is like I said earlier, when you get deer on the downwind side, they wind you.
Yep.
But I think what people have realized is that a lot of what they have experienced is scent control that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. They get they buy into the marketing, they buy into the product, then they buy the product and they take it out and it doesn't do what they say it was going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that was me.
Yeah.
You know, I was that guy too. I'm like, gosh dang, like, how can I still smell that fart? I just bought this new suit. Like, it's supposed to carb in this, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like, why can I still smell it? It just didn't really work.
Yeah.
And so I think what's so exciting for me and even getting, when I think back about meeting Scott and then starting to get involved in Ozonics and now here where we are to this day, it's crazy because Ozonics really helps people.
Yeah, exactly.
We talk about maximizing opportunity. Like, you know, I'm married, got 5 kids. I don't get to hunt every single day.
Yeah.
Scott, years ago, came on that outcome as a 5-day hunt.
Yeah.
You know, he's trying to maximize that opportunity, that short window of time that he has.
Yeah.
It's not about hunting the right day on the right wind, on the right stand. You know, sometimes years ago, you used to hear people say like, oh, well, you know, the best thing to do is maybe not hunt that day. I'm like, man, dude, I'm not going to not go hunting.
Yeah,
You're telling me not to go hunting? What do you mean not go hunting? Like, I'm going to go. It's not about the right stand. It's about right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And so I feel like Ozonics has helped people be able to hunt right now. And whatever you're up against, it's going to help when you get animals on that downwind side.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really cool. Like I said, you know, what Scott's been able to do, you know, even as we, you know, look at the Ozonics units just in of themselves.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't know, you know, you see HR, the HR 230, the HR 300,
Yep.
HR 500. Even up till recently, I didn't know that HR actually stands for Hunting Revolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Hunting
awesome.
Revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep saying we should make some cool T-shirts that just say Hunting Revolution.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so it started way back in 2007 with a big metal box. We actually, it's funny, we should have put it on the table. We have one here.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, dude, it was probably back in 2018. A guy just calls the office randomly and we get to talk and he's like, hey, I got something for you. I'm like, all right. He said, hey, you remember the HR 100? I'm like, yep. He said, hey, I've got one. And he said, I actually had 2. And one I used all the time and he still used it. And he's like, another one, he goes, I just got, and I don't know why. He goes, I just like kind of put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
And I never did anything with it. And he goes, and I just so happened to be cleaning some stuff with that. I saw that and I wonder if those guys would want that thing. It was in the original packaging.
That is awesome.
Everything.
That is so cool.
I'm like, wow. And so he sent it in. Well, dude, it was a big metal box. I mean, it is a box. It is a boat anchor.
Yeah.
And comparatively to the size of what we have now, it's just insane.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, to even look at the artwork and the graphics on the box and then getting to hear kind of some of the stories about Scott kind of just finding his way
Yeah.
in that, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And trying to build a business and build a company and become profitable to be able to make it to the next season, to be able to have the capital to build the next product,
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean? There's so much to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, the HR 100 was that original big rectangular box. It had an internal battery. It was like metal, like ding, ding, ding. And it's funny, there was a guy years ago that I met probably back in 2016 that met him at the shows and he hunted with an HR 100s and he said he used to carry 2, the big boxes. He's like, oh yeah, dude, I carried 2 of them in my backpack.
Jeez.
And he's like, I'm telling you, man, they worked.
Yeah.
He always used to joke. He said, if they weighed 50 pounds, cost $1,000 and lasted a year, he goes, I'd be buying 2 of them every year.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But he was talking about that HR 100. But then from there went up to the HR 150, which was more of the HR 230 style, body style
A little bit smaller.
that we have now.
Yeah.
Had a removable battery.
Yep.
And then from there, HR 150 became the HR 200,
Yep.
which the HR 200 for a long time was really our bread and butter, you know, and that really took us up until like 2016. And then the HR 300 hit the market. Okay. And then that was a whole new shape, a whole new design, whole new battery,
Yep.
you know, a big jump in ozone output, 45% more ozone than the HR 230.
Yep.
Like you said, and a new body style. Go ahead. So yeah, and then like I said, the HR 300, interestingly, that actually came out before the 230. So we had the HR 200 and then we came out with the HR 300. And then shortly after that, we kind of revamped the HR 230 or So the HR200 really took us up until like 2016. And then the big jump was to the HR300. Had a new battery platform, new shape, new design, 45% more ozone compared to the HR200. And like I said, when I say that, you think, oh, well, what about the 230? Because that's in there too. But actually, the 230 came after the 300. So we kind of took the 200 and kind of revamped it and created the 230, which was 30% more ozone than the 200.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Again, the HR230 came with a standard 4-hour battery. The HR300 came with a standard 4-hour battery, but a lot more ozone output, right? So you were getting a jump in ozone output, but the same battery life, new shape, new design. With the HR300 at that time back in 2016, also we launched the dry wash bag. We launched the kinetic pack. Those were big jumps.
Yeah.
In being able to not only use Ozonics in the field, but be able to use the Ozonics on your clothing with the dry wash bag, also being able to run it on the way in and out with the kinetic pack.
Right.
Were kind of big changes to stuff that we had been doing in the past. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of call for that over the years. And then like I said, 2016 was actually a rebrand as well. We went to a new Ozonics logo at that time, which was like this logo, which is pretty crazy. Do you remember what the old Ozonics logo looked like?
Yeah. Isn't it kind of more like, almost like kind of like it was cursive almost?
Yeah,
it was purple.
It was purple. Yeah, it was purple. And that's what you'll see on like the original HR100 and all the graphics and stuff. And you could still, it's still some of that. If you do, it's worth a Google. You can still find some stuff out there. But, and then like you said, we got into, 2018, 2019, we came out with the Ozonics Orion and then the Orion X, which was a HR300 style with an XL battery. We also launched our new Smart Arm mounting system. Yep. Which is an upgrade and just kind of a new design compared to our original mounting system, which is pretty sweet. Yep. And then, like you said, the Micro 3, which is a car plug-in, came out. And then where we're at now is, the Cat's Meow, that's not the name, but the HR500. Yeah. Right. So a huge step forward here with app compatibility with the Ozonics app that you can download off any app store, remote compatible via Bluetooth. Like you said, you get the Smart Arm with it, the XL battery, and the big thing with this one as well is 40% quieter. Yeah. So we had a lot of people over the years, we felt like for a long time it was more ozone. And then we got people saying, man, I wish it was just a bit quieter. I don't feel like deer hear it, but I feel like I can hear it above my head. Right. This is definitely going to help you with that, right? Mm-hmm. It's 40% quieter. Yeah. New overmold lid, kind of a whole design difference in that as well. So yeah, it's kind of crazy to see when you think back from the HR100, HR150, HR200, HR230, HR300, Orion X, HR500. It's crazy to see how far it's come.
Yeah, exactly.
And every once in a while, we'll have a guy that walks in. We had a guy in Wisconsin that walked in, older guy. You remember one of those? It was a big rectangular box. I'm like, HR100. He goes, yep. He goes, I still got it. Yeah. And he's looking at this and he's like, wow, that's a huge adjustment.
Oh, yeah.
And it is. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
To think the size difference.
Yeah.
But like we talked about earlier, at the end of the day, it is ozone, right? Yeah. And back in 2007 or now in 2024, we're exhausting ozone out the front of the unit, getting that ozone on your downwind side, trying to help eliminate your odor.
Yeah, exactly. So given everything that we've talked about today, how have you seen Ozonics help people who are avid outdoorsmen, hunters, you name it? How have you seen it help people throughout the years?
Yeah.
And I know that you already kind of touched on it a little bit, but I think it's worth touching back on it.
Yeah. I think, like I said, when I started Ozonics, I started in 2016, and I was really brought on board to, I was called a product specialist or something, right? Like I helped on the phones. I helped in customer service, just be there. When people called in, hey, I got a question on how to use it. Hey, I want to buy this. Hey, where can I get this? Yeah. Hey, I want to refurb my unit. I was just there. And Scott kind of always told me, he's like, Cole, like, I just want you to learn the company inside and out, be the jack of all trades, master of none. And so I felt like, initially, and even to this day, I always feel like I've really been able to feel the pulse of the customer. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like, and I'm the same way, right? Like if I got a chance to meet an owner of a company, I'm not going to walk right up to that guy and be like, this sucks, or I'm not liking this or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm probably going to kind of like tiptoe a bit more.
Right.
But I felt like with me on the phone, people didn't do that. They were just very right to it.
Straightforward.
Yep. If they really liked something, they would tell me. And if they didn't like something, they would tell me.
Yeah.
And so I still feel that way. When we go to the consumer shows, we get guys that walk up and it's like that 20-60-20 rule. 20% of people are going to absolutely hate it. 20% of people are going to want to marry it. So what's the 60% in the middle?
Yep.
And I feel like that's one thing all the way through that I've been able to really stay pretty in tune to is what the customer is saying, what they feel. You know what I mean? I feel like you could say that that's pretty true, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And it even goes back to, like you said, about the consumer shows. I mean, you talk to so many people every single year, face to face, you know?
Exactly. You start to hear some of the same things.
Yeah.
Yep. But I think the thing that's been the resounding theme for me across the board through all the years that I've been here is, and I know it sounds really cheesy, but it really actually helps people.
Yeah.
Like when you have guys walk up and like, geez, I don't know why I keep thinking about that guy from Iowa. Yeah, man, I've shot how many over 170 the last how many years?
Yeah.
A guy in Wisconsin, I've shot $3 over 160 in the last 5 years, and it's because of this thing. Mm-hmm. I had a buck that I couldn't get on camera for nothing. I couldn't get him on the hoof. I took this thing out there. He walked in directly downwind, and I shot him.
Yeah.
Like when you have dads walk up with their daughters or with their sons,
exactly,
and say, man, I wanted to take him and it's hard to get him out there and setting a double stand or a ladder and you kind of put yourself at a disadvantage and and then you come on the downwind side and they wind us. It's like, it's hard to get him to try to shower up the right way and keep his clothes. And like I know my kids are like walking boogers,
Yeah.
And when you have moms and dads walk up and they're like, yeah, man, like this thing really helps me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, we got an animal on the downwind side. Like we shot the biggest deer of our life because of that thing.
Yeah. That's
what I really think is so special. And I think it's just really awesome to be a part of something that really, really helps.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, unfortunately, within a category of scent control that generally doesn't.
Yeah.
Say it does, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
If in the field it lived up to the way the packaging and what it says on the front, we would be golden. But it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't in any of our experiences.
Right.
Me, you, everybody else. Like you go out there, you get deer on the downwind side, they wind you. And I think with this thing, it really, really helps. I would say, like I just said, really helps people. But I think the other thing that I actually wrote this down earlier is maximize opportunity. Mm-hmm. Maximize opportunity. Yeah. But interestingly, that's, I think, the thing. We've talked about this in previous podcasts about like the different stages of scent control and different stages of where people are at. The thing that I think is crazy is how there can be still such a stark difference in perspective.
Yeah.
Like stage one is the guy that, doesn't use any ozone, uses scent control.
Right.
Stage two is a guy that uses ozone on the clothing, does use Ozonics, but uses on the clothing. Stage three, he uses Ozonics just getting into it. And stage four, you're full blown gung ho.
Maximizing it.
Yep. And it's interesting because, if you just drew a line in the sand at the middle, it's just such a wild difference when you look at success even. Mm-hmm. 0 success, 100% success. It just seems like the guys that are using Ozonics are on the higher end of the success percentage.
Yep.
The guys that are over here are still struggling along.
Yep.
It's interesting because I still think there's a lot of people out there that just aren't using it.
Oh, yeah.
And aren't taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy too because you hear every year, man, I got anybody that swears by it.
Yeah.
Man, I got anybody that won't hunt it without it.
Yeah.
But then they're kind of reluctant to make that jump.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Like I said, I have been screaming it from the mountaintops for the last almost going on 8 years being at Ozonics, and said Scott's been doing it twice as long as that.
Yeah.
Yep. And it takes time.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, I think that's like, since I've started working here, I feel like I see, the maximize opportunity as kind of the overarching theme of kind of what we do, because 98% of the people that are hunting can't hunt every single day.
Yep.
So it's like those people who, are maybe weekend warriors, can only get out a couple times. It's like, you need to do everything you can to, like we say all the time, maximize that opportunity. And that's something that I think that it just seems like that's kind of the overarching theme of what we're trying to do. So
yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I would say that I think has been really important has been really important to Ozonics since I've been here. And I think we hear it from customers is, we've had a interesting journey even in how we sell Ozonics, right? We were in retail. Scott started in retail from 2007. 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. In 2018, he left retail. He went online only, pulled it out of all retail stores. And, at that time, it was crazy because, I really feel like there was a lot of retailers that did a really good job.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some retailers that they were outstanding and they were diehard and they sold it and they knew what they were doing. But the fact of the matter was there was also a good section of them that if you went in there and tried to talk to somebody, you couldn't find anybody who knew anything.
Yeah.
And, it felt like we had been bestowing the responsibility on the retailer to educate the customer, and they weren't really doing that.
Right.
And so when a customer bought it and had a bad experience, he didn't blame the retailer, he blamed Ozonics. It was Ozonics sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
And so in 2018, he really felt like he needed to take that back.
Yeah.
Take that responsibility back.
Right.
When when Scott made that decision and did that, I mean, there was a ton of pushback in the industry from retailers, from everybody. Ironically, now there's tons of retailers that are selling online, online only, or a hybrid of both. At that time, Ozonics, First Light, there was really Kuyu was out there doing that. They never went to retail, but there wasn't that many doing it. Now, fast forward 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Now we've gone back to retail in the fact that we sell in Shields, exclusively. But we also do sell online, as well. The reason I'm saying all that is when I got to Ozonics, one of the things that I heard Scott say so much, and I just think it's so awesome is like we build a product, right? But really what we also do is we're building a relationship with the customer.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's really important to who Ozonics is and what we are.
Yeah.
Meaning, for example, I live in Clear Lake, Iowa. Our office is in Mason City, Iowa. The nearest good archery shop, in my opinion, is in Rochester, Minnesota.
Yeah.
So guess what I do? I drive to Rochester, Minnesota.
Yeah.
I drive an hour and a half
Yeah.
to go there because it's a good shop, because it's got good people that really care.
Yeah, exactly.
And when I walk in there, they know my name. They make me feel like I'm one of one, not just a number.
Yeah.
One of a how many.
Yeah.
Do you follow me?
Yep.
They've built that relationship. And I think that's what we've tried to do.
Yeah.
Especially in 2024 and the way that the world works. From my perspective, we build a relationship with the customer in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
And I think some companies build the relationship with the customer until they buy.
Right.
And then the company's nowhere to be found.
Yeah, exactly.
But for us, it's more than that. That's what this whole podcast is about.
Yeah.
We're just trying to build relationships, man.
Yeah.
Like, here's who we are.
Yeah.
Maybe you can relate to some of this. Maybe you can hear this and there's a piece of information that you really, really like.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what? That's going to help me when I'm out there. You know what? I like that. I'm going to, whatever it is. And so for us, it's about building that relationship, whether that's like when I came to Ozonics, it was all about customer service. We take a lot of pride in if you call, we're going to answer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy, dude. You wouldn't believe how many people call and they're like, wow, I can't believe you answered, or man, I can't believe you called me back.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you called me back in an hour.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I have some companies I try to call you, they don't even have a number.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And so for us, it's about not only when if you're interested in buying, if you're watching YouTube, if you're looking at our website, if you're going into Shields, all that is building a relationship.
Right.
When you decide to buy and you're on our website, we want to be there to help you and make that process right.
Yeah.
If at some years down the road you decide you want to refurb the unit, or you're looking to upgrade, or you're looking for accessories, we want to be there.
Yeah.
If you're just getting on YouTube and you're just looking around on social media, we're there too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all about building that relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that has from my perspective, been a huge part of what Scott's tried to do is, listen, guys, like we genuinely want to build a relationship with our customer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep, definitely.
And I think that really resonates in what we do.
Yeah.
And,
without a doubt.
Even when we go to the consumer shows, guys walk up and they're like, so are you guys actually Ozonics? It's like, yeah, man. Like we work for the company. Like,
Yeah.
I'm from Iowa and we're here.
Right.
It was a 2-day drive.
Yeah,
Like we're here to talk to you.
Yeah.
You know, what do you want to talk about?
Yep. Exactly.
Hey man, you just want to show me a cool picture of a great buck? Awesome. Let's hear the story.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's, and I like that as a consumer myself when I'm treated that way.
Right.
And I think that's really what we've always tried to do.
Exactly. Yep.
All right. Well, I think we knocked that out of the park.
Oh yeah.
If I had a really good,
That works.
that doesn't sound like a home run though. We need to get like a home run.
Yeah.
They win the World Series. No. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like you said, like we talked about at the beginning, this is all about ozonics, scent control,
Yep.
and really everything in between. Yeah. If you're new to the game, if you're new to ozonics and you're really trying to get an idea about what it's about, if you really listen to this 3 times, or even 1 time, or even part of it,
Yeah.
you got a pretty good handle on it.
Yep. Exactly.
So I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Done.
See
you later. Ozonics Killer Wins podcast, another one in the books. If you're driving, be careful. Don't crash. If you're not driving, be careful. Don't crash.
See you next week.